Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I'm your host Amber Romanik, and today we're going to talk about the deep connection between your cortisol stress hormone and your thyroid health, because let me tell you, they are directly connected, and it's so important to understand that there's one imbalance that usually comes first. I'm curious, before I share what it is, comment below. Do you think that the cortisol adrenal imbalance comes first with the stress hormone, or the thyroid imbalance comes first? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I'm going to share more about what comes first in most cases later in the video, but I'm always curious to hear from you. And of course, make sure you like if you are enjoying this kind of content, and subscribe. Hit that subscription button so that you don't miss a video, you don't miss a short. I'm sharing them all the time to help educate you and empower you on your journey to food and body freedom and happy hormone health. And for those of you that are new here, because welcome, there's so many new subscribers. My name is Amber Romaniak, and I'm an emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert. And I've had my business for 11 years, and I support women and men to gain answers around the roots of your hormone imbalances, what your hormone imbalances are, including your thyroid, your adrenal health, your estrogen, progesterone for women, the nutrient deficiencies you might have. I help my clients fully overcome binge and emotional eating, get to the roots of your gut issues, build body confidence, move through the weight loss block so you can finally release it for good, and step into a level of power that you've always dreamed of having with your health, your well-being, and every aspect in between. So everything that I talked to you about, I went through as well. I had a hypothyroid issue, which means the thyroid is sluggish and underactive. I've had my antibodies tested. I don't have Hashimoto's, but I also had really high cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And my cortisol was 2,000, and it should only be like 350. So I had a very severe adrenal fatigue, which fueled a hypothyroid issue, which I'm going to dive more into now. Okay, so if you haven't already checked out the thyroid health workshop, side note, I just want to give you a friendly reminder. You only have a little bit of time left to sign up. It is May 29th, and we only have like 2 spots left. I mean, it might already be sold out by the time this video airs, but you can click the link in the description below if you want to come and join us for the thyroid health workshop to learn more about your thyroid function, whether or not you already have a thyroid issue. We're going to look at tests. We're going to look at the sweet spot of what is actually normal on those tests. We're going to talk about hypothyroid, hyperthyroid, Hashimoto's. We're going to explore natural ways to support your thyroid and improve thyroid function, and so much more. So come and join us. The link is below. And the other thing is that if you are wanting to get hormone testing done, you are struggling with emotional eating, binge eating, body image issues, you're overwhelmed, you're burnt out, you're stressed, and you're wanting guidance and support to food and body freedom, there is a link below as well to book a complimentary 30-minute body freedom consultation. We connect via Zoom, talk more about you and what your struggles are, your goals are, and then I can give you guidance and give you insight and help you take those steps to food and body freedom, and we can explore a coaching program together. So without further ado, let's dive in. Okay, so your adrenal glands are 2 walnut-shaped glands in the middle of your back. They sit on top of your kidneys, and your thyroid gland is, of course, in the throat. And both of these endocrine glands are extremely important for our health and well-being, our physical health and function, our mental emotional health. Let me tell you, if your thyroid's off or your cortisol's off, it can really impact your mood. And I'm going to talk more about this as we get into this episode today, or the show. But I find 9 times out of 10, if you have one imbalance, you might have both. And like I've talked about, women are 8 times more likely to have a thyroid issue than men, and 65% of thyroid issues are going undiagnosed and undetected. That is way too many. And part of that is because the normal ranges for testing are too big. I've been talking about this, and there's a much smaller sweet spot that is normal. I had hypothyroid in the normal range, quote unquote. And once I supported my thyroid properly, my symptoms resolved and I got back to optimal. So what I want to talk about first is I want to talk about the adrenals, because if you guessed, adrenal health and cortisol is the first imbalance that then domino effects and impacts the thyroid. That is usually what happens. Is your adrenal glands and your thyroid are like best friends, okay? They really play off each other and they really impact each other. And if the cortisol is too high or too low and you're in an adrenal fatigue or adrenal burnout, over time, this can start to have a negative impact on the thyroid. And one of my beefs about people getting testing done is the doctor will test like TSH, maybe T3 and T4 if you're lucky, but they don't usually also test your morning cortisol. And so that whole piece that is potentially the precursor, that has been one of the biggest things that has fueled your thyroid issue in the first place, has not even been looked at. And that's why with my clients, we're always looking at making sure you're getting your cortisol tested, a full thyroid panel, inflammatory markers, gut health, your relationship with food. There's so many things that are amplifying adrenal fatigue, adrenal burnout, as well as the thyroid issue. And we want to get to the roots. Here's what I'm always saying. You want to gain relief from your symptoms? We must look at the roots and look at, okay, why do you have a thyroid issue in the first place? Why did you have an adrenal issue in the first place? So this is the first thing we need to look at. Like I was just saying, usually there will be an issue with your adrenal glands starting to get stressed out, producing too much cortisol, running out of cortisol, the nervous system. This gets impacted before the thyroid usually gets impacted. And you know, your adrenal glands are like scanning the body, scanning your environment for threats. And there's so many things that stress the body out. I mean, EMFs, getting cut off in traffic, not sleeping well, something stressful on TV, being stressed about your body, stressed about what you ate, what you didn't eat, financial, like work, family, kids, like there's so many potentials that might be stressing you out. And those stressors accumulate, and over time the adrenal glands get taxed and overwhelmed and flood your body with so much cortisol, and that level gets too high. And what ends up happening is if we have a high enough level for long enough, and the adrenal glands are stressed out for long enough, we start to have not only symptoms and signs of adrenal fatigue, which if you want to go more in depth, the adrenal fatigue series is linked below. There's multiple videos where I go a lot deeper into that, so you'll want to go and watch that. But things like fatigue, exhaustion, afternoon energy lulls, cravings for salt, sugar, and refined carbs, abdominal weight gain, fertility issues, irregular cycles, skipping your cycle, anxiety, feeling really short-fused, brain fog, poor memory, more sensitive digestion. These are some of the common signs that you have an adrenal issue and your body is overwhelmed and highly stressed. And when we have an adrenal issue and we're more stressed, the body is trying to get to a state of slightly alkaline. So you'll burn through your precious minerals and your nutrients and vitamins in your body that are, you know, we need them to be in homeostasis and optimal, but you'll burn through your B12 too fast, and that's the energy vitamin, so you'll feel more tired. And you burn through your precious minerals like selenium, okay, which is a mineral that helps support good thyroid function. And then you have deficiency in selenium, become deficient in iodine because there's not enough of it in our food. And these deficiencies start to inhibit thyroid function and can have a negative impact on thyroid function. We need to produce and or, you know, eat enough or consume enough of the foods, or our body needs the nutrients to produce enough selenium, iodine, magnesium, zinc, other minerals to help with good hormone health. And so these deficiencies obviously start to throw the body out of balance. The other thing with the adrenal thyroid connection is that we'll often feel a lot of fatigue and we'll feel tired through the day. You know, maybe you'll have an afternoon energy lull. Maybe you notice it's most present, the fatigue in the morning. Let me know what, you know, it is for you. But essentially what ends up happening is once we start having that fatigue, we know that our adrenals have gone off enough that there's now a state of imbalance going on. And so where we start to get confused is like, well, how do I know if it's my thyroid or my adrenals if both of those imbalances, one of the main symptoms is fatigue? Anxiety is a symptom of both high cortisol and a thyroid issue, right? Weight gain is both a symptom of thyroid issue and adrenal fatigue. And this is where I can't emphasize enough. It is key to get your hormones tested and to review them with someone who will do a thorough read and maybe a more holistic read and knows the sweet spots of normal and knows the normal ranges are way too big and archaic and are not different for like men or women or your age or all the other things that are unique to you and your health journey. I am happy to connect with you and talk about sourcing testing and helping you find the imbalances that are going on. And are you in the sweet spot? Are you not? This is so important. But what often will happen is we'll get fatigued and then we get desensitized to that fatigue. It just starts to feel normal. We get desensitized to our symptoms altogether, the hair loss, the dry, flaky skin, the constipation, whatever's going on. And we just silently suffer when you shouldn't have to do that. There's so much we can do to gain relief and resolve these symptoms. And we can do so much of it naturally. And even if you're already on medication, there's so much we can do to improve your thyroid function, your adrenal function, and perhaps at some point you can come off medication or reduce your dosage. There's always possibility. I really believe in that. But if weight gain is a common symptom of both of these imbalances, we'll get stressed out and be like, oh my gosh, I need to restrict. I need to go on a diet. Often lack of hunger is a sign of hypothyroid. We'll eat less, and then we suppress our metabolism even more because we're not eating enough and we're not stoking our metabolism and we're in restriction. We're like, oh, I need to cut carbs because I keep reading carbs are bad. But one of the worst things we can do is cut carbohydrates when we have, just in general, but especially if we have an adrenal issue or a thyroid issue or both, because we need that fuel to help support good blood sugar along with proteins and fats. But the connection of those all together helps with good blood sugar, which is going to help better thyroid and adrenal function. Our blood sugar will start to go off when we have a thyroid and adrenal imbalance, and then that can make you feel hangry, dizzy, lightheaded, faint, moody. You can have a surge of hunger and then want to overeat or binge. So now we can start to see how some of these hormone imbalances can actually fuel emotional eating and overeating. So there's a lot of deep connection here. What tends to happen as the cortisol goes off and the adrenals are stressed is at some point the body gets overstimulated. The pituitary in particular, which is in the third eye area and is responsible for producing a thyroid stimulating hormone, will actually get too high and you'll produce too large of amounts. And this is one of the first things that takes us into hypothyroid, where you have the weight gain, the slow metabolism, the fatigue, the hair loss, the eyebrow thinning, the constipation, the anxiety, the muscle weakness, the slowness to recover from a workout. You're waking at 3 a.m. You don't feel like yourself. Like, these are some of the symptoms. And so what we don't realize is maybe you're only getting your thyroid tested and you're only looking at addressing your thyroid, results, but you're completely missing the cortisol, which is overstimulating the pituitary and causing the too much TSH production, which is contributing to the hypothyroid. The other thing we want to understand as well is the more cortisol we're producing, the more inflamed the body gets, and the more inflammation in the body, the more it stresses your thyroid and almost can like suppress it and suppress your thyroid's ability to produce T3 and T4, which are two of the key thyroid hormones that need to be in balance for optimal. If our T3 starts to drop too low, that directly impacts your metabolism. Obviously, if they both start to drop really low, that just amplifies the hypothyroid, sluggish thyroid picture, and all the symptoms I've been talking about start to become very apparent, and you really start to not feel like yourself, and you feel very off. And like I said, weight gain is often a very common sign of a hypothyroid picture. But we also want to rule out Hashimoto's, which, histamine sensitivity, hives, irregular cycles, a lot of, gut issues, brain fog, weight gain, puffiness, really big changes in your cycle. There's so many things that can be tied to this Hashimoto's picture as well. So we want to also make sure you get your thyroid antibodies tested. There's a few key things, and I'll talk about it in the thyroid workshop. Link is below. But we want to rule out there's not, an autoimmune condition going on, and that's just hypothyroid. But this starts with the stress and the adrenal dysfunction that makes the cortisol high, that overstimulates the pituitary. The thyroid gets depleted and suppressed from inflammation, high cortisol, and then the rest kind of can flow out. And then you throw in there, if you have a family history of thyroid issues, you have poor gut health, inflammation, poor gut flora, it all stresses the thyroid and the cortisol out. And then you just feel more exhausted and brain fogged and tired and more like frustrated because your body doesn't seem to be working the way you want your body to work. So then what do? You probably cut the carbs, you go on a diet, you restrict, you try to exercise more to try and lose the weight. But then things get worse potentially, and you gain more weight, or the scale isn't budging, or your symptoms get worse and you feel more tired. And that's because restriction and over-exercising, in this case where you're already tired and your body's already in a heightened state of stress and depletion, is not going to help your hormones balance. We need to look at, okay, what are the root causes of what's fueling the cortisol issue, the thyroid issue, and address those. And this is where honestly working with someone one-on-one and getting that direct support to address root causes like emotional eating, binge eating, food addiction, and the binge purge cycle is extremely important. Sugar addiction. We need to overcome these behaviors because they're amplifying your cortisol and your thyroid issues, fueling inflammation, poor gut health, a lot of negative emotion that just keeps stressing out the nervous system. And this is going to keep these hormone imbalances going for you and your symptoms and make it feel even harder to lose weight. So we need to look at your sleep, which is very important. We need to look at at your hydration, the quality of food that you're eating. Are you on the right supplements? Are there any other nutrient deficiencies we need to deal with? Like, where are you on your priority list? Are you the people pleaser perfectionist who is literally putting everyone else first and yourself on the back burner? There's so many things to take into account that can contribute to our hormone imbalances that you may not be looking at, and frankly usually are not being looked at if you just go and get a test done. They're just like, oh, this is off, take a pill, or oh, everything's fine. It's not that. We want to address the roots, and we want to look at things very thoroughly. And I'll ask the question again for you to ask yourself, do you know what caused your thyroid and cortisol issues in the first place? And if you don't, book that consultation. Let's connect. It's so important that you get the answers, and I am here to help advocate for you and help you get those answers and work through them to gain resolve for from the hormone issues, as well as the emotional eating, the binge eating, the stress, putting yourself on the back burner. I work with a ton of high achieving women and professional women who are constantly putting themselves on the back burner and putting everything else first. Usually it stems from some level of unworthiness or perfection or needing to prove or look like they have it all together, but it only compromises your health and well-being. And oftentimes all this stress is due to a lack of balance, and balance is going to look different for everyone, but there's a massive lack of imbalance with ourselves, and we're not giving to ourselves in our body. So we must be willing to look at that. So just to recap here, the thyroid and the cortisol and the adrenal glands are directly connected. So before I go any further, I'm curious to hear from you. Did you know about this connection between the cortisol and the thyroid? Did you know that usually we start with a cortisol stress hormone imbalance, and then that can lead to stressing out the thyroid? Did you know that connection? I'm curious, do you already know you have a cortisol issue or a thyroid issue or both? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm happy to try and provide any answers to any questions or guidance, resources, or I'm happy to connect on Zoom and talk about the possibility of working together in a program to help you on your journey. Come and join the thyroid workshop if you want to taste, because it's going to be so full of information and guidance to help you with your thyroid health. And of course, there is that connection to our adrenal health as well. So it starts with cortisol, all kinds of stressors, make that number high, right? Too much stress, overbooked schedules, emotional eating, binge eating, yo-yo dieting, over exercising, not sleeping well, too much caffeine, right? Too much stimulation. And then at some point our thyroid can really be impacted, and then you just feel the fatigue, the hair loss, the weight gain, all these symptoms that I'm talking about, and you just don't feel yourself, and it impacts you emotionally. So this is where there is this connection between the two, and it is never just one thing. There are multiple intricacies and multiple layers to these imbalances. So I hope this provides you with some guidance and some relief and some answers as far as it's never just one thing. And we want to thoroughly test and check everything to see what exactly is off, how off is the level, and what is contributing to the cortisol issue and the thyroid deficiency. And let's regulate and boost up your minerals and make sure you don't have the selenium and iodine deficiency, and get you on the path to getting your energy back, your mental clarity, your optimal mood, free of anxiety, so the weight can release, your cravings can go away, your appetite can regulate, you can boost your metabolism again, right? That you feel like yourself again. This is truly the key of this education and being here to share these, videos and this information with you, because we need to stop tolerating and normalizing all the symptoms and suffering. And it's not a good enough answer if someone's like, oh yeah, this is off and just take this pill and you just have to deal with it for the rest of your life. That is not a good enough answer. And neither is it's all in your head, everything is normal. It's not this, oh, you're too young or too old. Like, don't let any of that stand in your way to keep advocating for yourself and getting the answers that you seek. And I'm totally here to advocate for you too. So come and join us for the thyroid workshop. You book a consultation, or the adrenal fatigue series is below. There's also other videos about thyroid and emotional eating and so much more. I'm here to help you on your journey. So like I said, make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button if you're liking these videos, comment and let me know what you learned today. This is so important. We should be taught this in school. So I will look forward to seeing you again for the next video. Have a great rest of your day.